Welcome back to Sears Point Raceway, and this, the Autolite Nationals, and here's Frank Pedregon, and he's a bit of a lucky break guy. He had a single in round number 2 when Chuck Beal couldn't answer the call after that first round crash. But Frank Pedregon had problems. Alan Reinhart found out what they were.
He did have a little bit of luck there, Max. The clamp that holds the throttle cable on the bottom of the injector broke. They think lane choice was important. They were going after lane choice on their single, but when that clamp broke, they lost the lane choice. Now they've got their fingers crossed.
All right, so Frank Pedregon did not get the lane choice. Corey Lee's been looking very strong, though, Kelly.
He's looking really strong. He ran a 5.06 in the second round, and he chose the right lane. Unlike the rest of them in dragsters, he chose the right lane in the funny car.
Corey couldn't wait. Frank Pedregon goes to the final round. The throttle linkage held together here. He goes through at a 5:10 elapsed time, 291 miles an hour. He won twice last year, driving for Jim Dunn. Now here he is in the final round. Impressive performances, and you got to consider he's had 2 runs that he could have shut off on. The one, as Alan pointed out earlier, a broken throttle linkage sidelined him there. Here, Corey Lee just couldn't wait.
Well, remember, Corey had a 418 light in the first round. Live by the light, die by it. And that's what happens when you have such a good light. You tend to have this problem in red light eventually.
Well, Corey left way too soon. Pedregon, nice run. Kept all 8 of them lit all the way through.
Looked real clean, real dry. And you know what? Jim Dunn's a threat now. Yes,
he is. Let's go to Alan.
Frank Pedregon has just taken his helmet off. He, too, had to stop and celebrate for a second before he got out of the car. 5:10 headed into the final round, and you're in Jim Dunn's home state.
Tell you what, Jim Dunn, Pontiac, Turnhouse, Redline Oil. Wasn't for them, we wouldn't be here, but our crew, I know you hear that a lot, but our crew did a heck of a job, especially Jim Dunn.
And the reward for all that hard work is more hard work. They got to service the car for the final.
The engines lit. The final 2 cars in this semifinal round. Win Bazemore. And this man, Tony Pedregon. Probably the 2 hottest teams in racing right now overall. Winston now trying for his 3rd consecutive final round appearance. While Tony Pedregon's got the assembled masses of the Castrol crew, both on the John Force's car and his own, working on his tune-up.
Yeah, and Tony's been, really good on the tree this weekend. I think he's going to need this. If Tony's on, he could win this on a hole shot, but he also could run quicker. These are pretty heads-up races right now. These are 2 good teams. They're strong.
Lane choice here went to Witt with a 5:08 in the previous round, up against a 5:11. Let's go quickly to Bill Stevens.
What's interesting about this, Mac, is usually Tony Pedregon is trying to keep the angry villagers off the tail of his boss. He's trying to keep Witt Bazemore off his tail here. This could have big points implications.
Certainly could, because Witt and Tony are battling it out for 2nd and 3rd in the Winston chase. As we told you earlier, John has a substantial, and I mean big lead, trying for his 9th Winston title in funny car. You're on board with Bazemore. Witt Bazemore a little late on the chute. We're going to ride it out with him there as the crew celebrate. And Chuck Etchel's the car owner. Tim and Kim Richards, the co-crew chief. And Witt Bazemore's 4:87. This establishes a tremendous mark, the quickest elapsed time ever here at Sears Point Raceway. Take a look. Watch the car in the near lane. He went 310 miles an hour on this run. As I said in the previous round, it's in the last few hundred feet that car just accelerates like a rocket.
You can really see how light the front end is from the outside of the car. It's unbelievable from half track on what this car's doing.
Well, Witt's got to be happy, right, Alan Reinhart?
Witt is definitely happy. What hot slick racetrack?
What did we run?
487 at 310.
487. Oh, man, can you believe that for Tim Richards and Kim and Team Kendall, all the people that make this possible, Chuck and Shelley. Man, you know, when you're running John Force, and let me tell you, that guy, he is John Force's shadow and is just as good as John Force, really. The kid is good, and, man, we tuned it up, Tim. Oh, that took my breath away. I knew it was a good lap, but man, he has some nads to run 487. That's stout.
He'll have the Shadow's brother in the final.
Well, here we go. Frank Pendragon against Whit Bazemore in the finals of Funny Car. That also coming up in just a few moments here at Sears Point Raceway. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are at the Autolite Nationals at Sonoma, California. This is Sears Point Raceway. We're nestled in the foothills just north of San Francisco. A huge crowd on hand here today under ideal racing conditions. I'm Dave McClelland along with Bill Stevens and, of course, Shelley Anderson with Alan Reinhardt. Down at the finish line area, I talked about the weather. It really turned nice for this final day.
And it's really cooled off compared to earlier today. It's a lot cooler. The track's better. You're going to see good runs, and I think great side-by-side racing.
I think that's exactly what you're going to see because we've got the final rounds coming your way in Pro Stock, Funny Car, and Top Fuel. The Pro Stock car is headed by this man, Kurt Johnson. He had qualified #1 at a 689. He is challenging Jim Yates. Yates, of course, at the wheel of his Pontiac Firebird, has visited the winner's circle once this season. That was at Madison, Illinois, the St. Louis race, the Sears Craftsman National.
Only 100 separates these two cars, but you know, Kurt's been driving better. He's been on. He's also #1 qualifier.
All right, let's go down to the starting line area. Here's Bill Stevens.
Mac, this is going to be a very emotional final. You know, Warren Johnson did not have a very good Western swing. He never went further than the semifinals in any of the races. Kurt's looking for his second win on the swing, but Jim Yates has lost to Kurt Johnson in the last 3 races, counting the Winston showdown. He really wants to beat Kurt in this final.
More than any other eliminator category, you see the psychological games played at the starting line. And I'm primarily talking about the delay in the staging process. They'll both roll up, light the top bulb on the Christmas tree. That indicates they're 6 to 8 inches away from the actual starting line. Then sometimes they just sit there for what seems to be an eternity.
That's what makes Pro Stock, and it makes it interesting.
It does. Jim Yates may be trying to do anything he can to get the advantage over Kurt Johnson. Let's see. Yates is in. Very slight advantage went to Kurt Johnson, but it didn't matter. He shook the tires. Jim Yates wins #2 for this, the 1999 season. His wife Tony celebrating with the crew. How about Jim Yates? Stepped up to the plate with a 698 at 197.
Kurt was in trouble right away. You know, he's been having a problem with, like his dad, getting down this track. This track's been difficult. It's only an 80-foot concrete pad, and right here you saw it. He shook and had to shut it off.
Shook the tires hard. It started to skate around on him. There was nothing he could do because if he had kept his foot in the throttle, he'd have been in serious trouble. So Jim Yates wins and advances a little closer to Kurt Johnson, who's second in the Winston points chase. This is after 14 of the 22 race series for the 1999 NHRA Winston Championship. We'll be back with Nitro Finals when we return. Stick around.